Hey guys, welcome back to Time Under Tension. This is episode 6, and today we're going to be talking about finding purpose. It's a little bit heavy. So, this is something we've been talking about this week, and I think it's probably something a lot of us think about very frequently. If we ever get to a point where we're working hard and not really sure what we're working towards, we can start to kind of question what it's for. And I think a lot of us at this time in history have the opportunity to kind of question our career choices and things like that and really try to fine tune what it is that we want. So I think it's important to have a process for figuring out where you should be, what you should be doing, and how to kind of establish what that feels like within yourself.
Yeah, I think you brought up a great point there too, that our careers kind of tend to be what we think our purpose is and where our passion should lie. When I know we talked about this yesterday, and I just think it's a great opening point in that what we do, our actual career, is not necessarily our purpose. In its entirety. The environment that we're doing the thing that is our purpose is where we'll then also find our passion. So I guess for me, just a step back, when I was thinking about purpose, when I was thinking about passion before, I always thought that purpose and passion meant finding the career for me, finding the thing I'm supposed to be doing instead of seeking something that is within me that separates me from everybody else that I can bring into that particular space. Volleyball coaching, for example, it's not the volleyball coaching that brings me the passion. It's the helping the athletes find and become the best versions of themselves in this space. That just happens to be a way I can connect.
That's great. I was listening to an author talk about her book is called Cues, and she talks about the different like levels of relating to people. And the second level is where a lot of us stay, and it's where we ask things like, what do you do? And job focused questions. But then the third level would be, what drives you? What's your internal motivators? Like what gets you out of bed in the morning? And I think that's where we have to go when we look at purpose and passion, because you're right. The job is just a part of, it's an outlet through which we can express our calling, our passion, that which we're created for uniquely, versus that third level where that's the fullness of, okay, this is really deep down, going back to roots. This is where I'm rooted. This is who I am at the cellular level that really drives me, that's deeper than just how it tends to be expressed in the external environment, which could be one job or another, but you have a specific function within both of those places that's more unique to who you are.
Yeah, I think that speaks to fulfillment versus emptiness as well, is that you can't find fulfillment in anything external necessarily. It's the driver that we're talking about, that passion within, that's going to lead to the fulfillment. If we're seeking that fulfillment in external, in a job, that volleyball coaching is going to be my purpose, then I'm going to feel empty on the inside because I don't necessarily know why or have this underlying driver that's motivating me to be the best volleyball coach it can be.
Yeah. And a lot of those things, if we tie our worth completely to the role, we'll be disappointed, because then we start to tie our worth to their performance, to the review of our superiors, to our work output. So that's why it needs to be driven by something more like deeply rooted than just your role in this job. Like your role as a coach is this outward expression of this deeper value system that you have internalized and in which you put your purpose.
What's yours? You want to talk a little bit about your passion?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've struggled with over time in a good way. I think I am super interested in a lot of different things. So sometimes that can be really hard for me to figure out what I'm passionate about because it's very rare that I hit just one thing that I'm on fire about. And that's where I want to put all my focus. I want to dabble in all the things. And when I was in middle school and high school, I got pretty much addicted to career and personality tests, and I would take them constantly. And I just wanted to learn who I was and what I wanted to do. And I thought that these tests could tell me. And what I found was there were themes within them, all the recommendations that I had in terms of a career, but there was nothing that particularly drew me. And it was really hard because I was trying to take my personality and put it in the box of a career and think this is what's going to allow me to express myself to my fullest capacity, when really I have a lot of unique gifts that are woven together into what makes me a unique person. And all of these different areas are going to allow me to express it in a different way. So it took a long time to figure out that it's not just about finding a box to fit yourself into, it's about creating a life that allows you to express your unique gifts to their fullest capacity. And I think a lot of that comes back to attitude as well. When you realize that you're pursuing things that are in alignment with your values and your goals, you need to trust that you're going to be made full through doing the work well, not just from the work itself. It's about the quality of output. It's about living to your fullest, which just takes active living. So for me, that was being frustrated that nursing didn't fulfill me, and then realizing that I had joy in nursing because of the way I was able to express myself within it, even if as a whole, I didn't feel like it fully allowed me to express who I was. That's why then I took on coaching as well, which gave me another outlet through which to express my gifts in a different way. So I started to kind of create this career that allowed me to express myself to my fullest capacity, which was really a journey of learning as well.
Mhm. I think that definitely can speak to passion in general, and that we can see passion. For me, passion is just another emotion that I can feel fully in my body as a tool for self-reflection. So when I'm seeking purpose, passion is an indicator that I'm on the right track. So finding the bits and pieces where I felt passion within different jobs can help then create the one that's going to allow me to do all of the things that I know within me, those unique gifts that we have. I can use all of these things that I felt passion from and use that passion as a tool to really find the reasons why I am doing what I'm doing. And I think it's just helps with the attitude part. The what's your heart's intention when you're going to do something? I think it helps create a remembrance, I guess, of why you're doing the thing you're doing. And so it doesn't lead to job fatigue or exhaustion or low quality of life, because you've done the work to see where passion tends to manifest itself in these different career paths, and then bring them all together to remember the why behind what you're doing. Just keeps that heart of gratitude, that emotion, joy coming to work every day, knowing that that work is completely in alignment with the passion that you feel.
So is passion an emotion?
For me, I found it very reflective to think about passion and what it is or how I feel it or where I find it. And I thought about the times that I felt passion, because similar to you, I don't feel it very often. It's not something that happens regularly. And I think that led to me trying to seek a career that would bring about that passion, because I wasn't really feeling it much. And for me, I would say that passion is a guide for me, just like all my other emotions. So I would consider it an emotion, but it's a full body experience, emotion that I think creates that positive internal pressure we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, to drive me to do my purpose, which leads to fulfillment. So I see it as a positive indicator that I'm on the right path, as well as a tool to be self-aware of and reflective of, and knowing that this is something that's meant for me to do.
That's good. Yeah, I think that in my mind, it's separate from an emotion, and it's not always a positive or comfortable experience. I think that passion often starts as this positive experience. It's exciting, it fires you up, even if it's anger towards a righteous cause and you realize that you're getting passionate about something, which is one way that can inform you of your passion. I think that that initial feeling, that high, can fade, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the passion is gone. But I think that when we're depending on that feeling part of passion, we can get lost in it once the real world kicks in and we realize pursuing passion is often uncomfortable. It means pushing ourselves continuously outside of our comfort zone towards this greater goal towards which we're passionate. It can mean challenging who we were or what we identified with before. It can mean confronting ideas that we didn't necessarily agree with to start with in order to pursue our passion more deeply. So I think of passion as um, like the way that the Holy Spirit communicates to me, almost as if my intuition is kind of informing me of what I need to do. I don't feel emotions really strongly. I don't connect with them well. So for me, passion is often more interest led. If I find myself going back to a topic over and over again, or in my free time going to watch videos about something or talking about something frequently, which I think also requires some journaling so you can start to see those themes, that might be a good indicator of passion. Another tool I heard of recently is from this book called The Full Body Yes by Scott Shute. And he talks about when you make a decision, feeling it in your heart, mind, and gut that it's a yes, that it checks off in all three areas. And I think that if something does check off in all three areas, that can also be a cue that you're passionate about this thing, that it resonates with you, that something within you, which I think is the spirit, something within you recognizes this external expression as in alignment with your calling or your purpose.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I agree with you that when I feel passion, I see that as a communication tool from God through the Holy Spirit, to let me know that I'm entering into something that is fulfilling the greater purpose. One thing I think that just really came to me while you were talking is that it's almost that initial full body yes that we feel becomes a value for us in a way, because I think you're right. I think passion, we can feel it initially, and sometimes when it gets tough, or we're patiently waiting to see the fulfillment in on the other side of this initial passion that we felt, the in between, it can be hard to maintain. And if we rely on a feeling, then when we don't feel it, we'll start to question ourselves again. And so what you were saying really resonated with me, in that when I feel the passion, that's when I know I need to remember that. I need to take that passion that I felt about the thing, ask and find in myself what that is, identify it, and then hold that as a truth of mine, a value of mine that will lead to my decision-making process being much more linear and not having that decision fatigue like we just talked about. It's like it becomes another route, because regardless, then along the entire journey, you have that route already established from the initial feeling of the passion, that initial guidance point from the Holy Spirit for both of us, that will then always be watered and nourished as we go along until full bloom, and we're able to really see the full picture at the end there. I think that's really good to think about our passions becoming roots that are values that help us in our decision making, because our feelings aren't going to last forever, especially if we're having to handle a lot of other unplanned or uncontrollable external circumstances along the way.
Exactly. And I like that, because I think that we have highs in life to get us through the lows. You know, it's something to look back on. It provides a healthy contrast in our lives where we can experience these times of a lot of joy and feeling very passionate. But then those are the things that we need to hold on to when we start to get down into the bogs of what the work is going to actually look like. And we need to know how to go back to it and say, okay, this is my mission statement. This is why I'm doing this. But you really need to establish that. And I think you need to write it down. And I think that having a list of your values is really helpful to actually write down what you believe, why you believe it, and why you're moving towards what you are. And I think that it's also important that that's allowed to be flexible over time, because I think that we become passionate about certain things at certain times in our life. And that's for a reason. It's for this phase of growing. And it might be something that sticks with us for life. And it might be something that we lose passion about, or the passion transforms over time. So having that maybe sheet to go back to where you have listed out your mission statement, your values, what drives you, what gets you out of bed in the morning, so that you know yourself on that third level of relation that we hope to connect with other people on, that we know ourselves on that level as well. So we can go back and say, this is who I am when I'm questioning it.
Yeah, I think that's good. Do you want to talk a little bit about, I guess, identifying the passions? What does it look like to search through experiences and really identify a passion over something else?
Yeah, that's great. So, I think that interest can kind of drive passion. And I talked about spending your free time. Like, what are you going back to? What do you find yourself interested in? And that can kind of inform your passion, but definitely differentiate that from where you find yourself hiding. Like, if you find yourself going to social media in all of your free time, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's your passion. So I would really focus on looking at your schedule and looking at the things that you're committing most of your time to that aren't distraction based, and that helping to inform your passion a bit. And then I really think there's a lot of value in going back to our childhood self and saying, okay, what did I do as a kid? How did I spend my time when I was bored, which is not a state we experience much now, unfortunately. When I was bored, what did I do? How did I kill the time? What did I have fun doing? What could I do? And realize that hours had passed before I even looked at the clock again. And maybe it's not something as specific as what we did as a kid. Like, maybe we played a specific sport, but maybe there was something in that activity itself, or being part of a team, that is informing our passion a bit, that we can go back to. Or if you loved art as a kid, is there a way to express that through the job that you're doing now that you can feel a little bit of fulfillment in? As a nurse, I didn't really get to express my love for art in my job, but there were a couple really cool times where I was able to do some drawings for patients. And it was a way that I got to kind of pull my passion into my job, which wasn't specifically rooted in that passion, but allowed me to then express it. So I think that it's cool to go back to look at your childhood self and kind of see, all right, what were the things that I used to love, and what was it about these things that could serve me now?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think because it also just adds on to the point you made prior about how our passions are going to shift and transform. So what we might have found passionate or passion in growing up, like for me, sports, when that gets taken from you, there's something in there that was leading to the passion overall that I can still continue to take and move forward and apply to my future endeavors. Because I feel like that kind of ties it full circle as well as the things that we're doing in our lives that are part of our purpose in the moment, in that season of growth, in the part of the time in the world that it was necessary for you to be doing the thing that you were doing. That's not always going to last forever. And so knowing that the passion is just being expressed again, like you mentioned earlier, it's being expressed in something we're doing, but passions are going to be transformed along the way. And if we're not having an open mind and open heart to how, for me, I believe God's again talking to me through the Holy Spirit and my passions, that we can get stuck thinking our purpose is rooted in something we can't let go of then.
Mm.
And I just think it's powerful to talk about going back to childhood to really identify some of these passions, but also knowing that that is showing that there's something in us from the very beginning that is going to take us through A through Z different opportunities or experiences or career paths that still elicit that beginning passion that's been in us the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of talked about, you know, what we did as kids for fun the other day, and seeing as my memory of childhood is very different than yours. You don't remember a lot of things that you did as a kid. I think one thing that you did that was cool was ask your family, like, what did I play with as a kid? And I think that's important. Like, there's people who may not know you on every level, but they've seen you at a certain point in your life. And you can ask them, like, hey, what was I like? What was I interested in? What did I do when I was a kid, and get some outside perspective that might give you a little bit more clarity than just looking back from the inside. And if there's people around you who you're close to now, you can always ask them, like, hey, what do you see as something that I bring up a lot? Like, what is something that I seem passionate about? People will recognize that you talk about the same things all the time, maybe more so than we do at times. So I think asking people like, hey, what do I bring up a lot, or something on that level, I think you can get a lot of interesting insight from other people as well.
Yeah, I think other people have their perceptions that are always cool to hear because we tend to think everybody sees us how we see ourselves. And so having outside perspective on what others are seeing, where my light's shining or where your light's shining in just ordinary experiences in the day. I think we've talked a lot about passion and purpose being career specific. And I think it's great to say that the passions that we feel can be applied to all areas of our lives. Um, so we don't just need to identify the passion that's going to lead to a work opportunity. It's like defining these passions also help in our day-to-day quality of life and fulfillment of joy and lack of emptiness just from ordinary experiences. I think if we identify the more root-based passion like we're talking about that seemed to be instilled in us from the beginning, then we can always have something to go do that's going to bring us joy, even if it's not career specific or we're having a low day. Knowing where our passion comes from or something that drives us to shine our light, we can go do that on a Saturday or on the weekend, to make sure that we're not only tapping into that passion in a box, like we mentioned earlier. Why does my passion to want to help others light shine have to only be when I'm coaching volleyball? I can be applying that passion that I have all the time. And I can be expressing it to other people who are helping me know myself, like we just talked about.
Yeah, and I think that you're right. It doesn't necessarily have to do with your career at all. But I think that there's power in figuring out what your purpose is in whatever situation that you're in. You know, not all of us get the chance in our lives to just stop our job and start to work for ourselves or whatever. You know, we don't all get that freedom. And there's times when we just got to hold down the job that we have. And it can be really frustrating when you're trying to maintain a feeling of happiness every day because you think that my job needs to completely align with my passion. And I don't think that that's true. I think that a lot of that passion comes from figuring out where you're able to work in your passions into, again, this one external expression of who you are. So within your job, how can you bring your passion into it? You have unique characteristics that you bring to the job that you're in, that you were hired because of, not just because of your skills, but because of who you are on this deeper level. Now, how do you bring those gifts into this environment and begin to find joy in this environment, even if on paper, this isn't a job that you're super passionate about? How can you bring your passion into it? Because really, I think we've talked about this a lot lately, but God is more concerned about our relationship with Him and our relationship with other people and the posture of our hearts than what it is exactly that we're doing. Like, He's not, He, in the Bible, He recruited people from all kinds of backgrounds, any kind of job possible, or legal, illegal, whatever. It doesn't matter, because the point was the posture of their heart and their willingness to step up in whatever role they were in and implement their God-given gifts within that environment, which I think is the foundation for joy.
Yeah. And joy brings about that peace that we crave so badly as people.
Exactly. And I think that's where we start to find meaning, when we feel like we can pour ourselves into a role and find that deep sense of peace wherever we are, because we know that there's nothing left in us to give, that we're giving all that we are, um, because of the passion of life, the passion of living fully, more so than trying to find the perfect environment, because we will never find that.
Yeah, I think when I was struggling last week, feeling the purpose, I wasn't understanding the purpose. I was struggling quite a bit because I wasn't necessarily feeling that passion or really understanding the situation I was in. And the more we get into this conversation now, it's cool to reflect back on that moment and know that when I've identified passion and I know what I was created to do, I know that one of my superpowers is my ability to connect with others and provide a safe environment for them to open up and find what it is that might be too uncomfortable to talk about or too uncomfortable to even think about in the moment. But in that moment in time, I had forgotten. I had not written it down yet or seen it out on a piece of paper that I could put somewhere in my office that's like, this is why, and this is the purpose. And it doesn't matter if my work environment is, if I'm struggling in my work environment, I can take this passion that is God-given, that leads to purpose anywhere I'm at. So if I'm feeling a lack of passion in a particular aspect of my life, I can still have a knowing, a much deeper knowing, that intuition that I have passion that leads to purpose anywhere. I need to go create that now. If I'm not feeling it where I'm putting it initially, where it was initially manifested in my career with volleyball coaching, and I'm struggling to see purpose there, it's like, I already know my purpose because of the passion because of that guidance that, okay, now go create with that passion because you already know that you're serving purpose. It's like we are already fulfilled in purpose if we can trust that the passion that he gave us is the thing to go do, that's going to give, to have a different postured heart and not allow external circumstances and that external pressure to steer you off the path.
And I think that that's a good point to add to that sheet that I'm talking about with your values. You talked about your superpower. And I think framing it like that is so cool because our gifts, our areas in which we excel can inform our passion as well. So if you list out like what are my superpowers? Like what are the things that I know that I'm good at? And this is about being honest, recognizing your gifts as if you were another person, stepping back and evaluating who you are and your gifts and maybe some of your weaknesses or areas to improve upon as well. Really objectively assessing who you are, identifying those gifts and thinking, okay, how can I then apply this gift to my job? Like if your gift is to connect with people, you're in a coaching role. It's like, okay, so what does that look like uniquely in your situation when you're expressing that passion within that role? I'm really passionate about habits, like habits and organization. Well, okay, I'm a coach, but it's mostly health and fitness. How do I apply that passion to this job? Okay, I can help teach people how to be organized and establish habits that serve their goals. So I'm able to kind of take something that's more deeply mine and shift my job into a way that allows me to express it, as opposed to, okay, now I need to find a job that's focused on organization. It's like, no, bring that skill into the environment and you'll probably create a really unique role by doing so.
Yeah, so good.
So we talked a little bit about passion and purpose and finding meaning in what you're doing based on your expression of self and bringing that passion into the environment. And I think that, we started this talking about fulfillment versus emptiness. And I think fulfillment takes a few different characteristics in order to really live in that space or live in it more frequently. We've talked about in the past few episodes about values and how establishing those values is really important so that you can gauge whether or not you're living in alignment with them. How else do you feel like we create that fulfilled state?
Yeah, I think when we talk about the pursuit of purpose, fulfillment for me comes with identifying the passion and then using that and pursuing forward towards whatever the goal is, but having a very open mind with what it's leading to. Fulfillment to me is present moment surrender to absolutely choosing to pursue the passion, and not knowing and still going. I know we talked about that yesterday. It's, to me, identifying the passion and knowing that this is for a greater purpose, and I don't need to know what that greater purpose is, but daily pursuing that same passion in my life journey. If I know that I'm staying true to that along with my values, I placing that passion in my value system, then that pursuit is going to lead me to constant fulfillment.
That's so great. And I think that's a different mindset in approaching goals. Like you can have an external goal, but I think the ultimate goal needs to be in what the daily pursuit looks like more so than what the actual outcome looks like. Because it's not about what you're getting towards, it's what you're learning on the way there. And I think sometimes we underestimate the importance of that. We're like, I'll just scramble and get to this point, whatever it takes. And that can mean compromising your values along the way. It could mean, I'm going to work 60-hour work week and not spend time with my family because I want this monetary goal, because that's going to lead to this quality of life. But when you actually think of what a quality life looks like, you're thinking about it as, oh, here's me spending time with my family, but then the goal that you're pursuing isn't in alignment with what that actual outcome is going to look like when you're fulfilled in your life. You're completely off track. You're working towards two separate things. So you're not really working towards either at all. And you're not in alignment with what you actually want. So I think knowing what success looks like in your mind, what it actually looks like and feels like, and then living as that person that you see in your future, as that person who's hardworking or a family person or passionate about what they do or finds joy in all situations, that requires your daily commitment to being that person. It doesn't require grinding until you become that person.
Yeah, I think that's huge. As a coach, I know we talk about the process, embracing the process. It's not about the outcome, it's about the process. And so when I think about that, when I think about commitment to the process, that ups and downs are going to happen along the way. It's about every single day, where am I at right now in this moment in my pursuit towards this external goal? Is like, if I'm, like you're saying, so focused on the outcome, then am I really ever going to reach fulfillment? Because I'm constantly needing more or wanting more, or I'm not there yet. I'm not who I want to be yet. It's like, when you find the passion and you're burning inside for something, then you know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, doing just as you are. And so when we're in this process, and we're going to grow along the way as well, making sure that we focus on the process and trust the process at the same time is going to lead to that daily fulfillment that leads to the overall fulfillment, instead of, like you're saying, just constantly feeling empty because you think you're not enough yet. It's like we are enough just as we are, doing exactly what we're doing. And as long as the posture of our heart is intentional about pursuing the passion that we just established.
Exactly. And that's why I think you can find fulfillment wherever you are if you're committed to being dedicated and faithful in the process. And it will lead to an outcome that's beyond what you could have even imagined. You can achieve more goals than you could have ever set for yourself if you're in alignment with something deeper, which I believe is God's purpose, not just driven by some worldly pursuit that isn't in full alignment with what you actually value. And I find that if you're in a place where you're not feeling fulfilled, I think, again, going back to that sheet and saying, okay, who am I and what is it that I really want? Meaning, what is it that I want to feel? What are the things, what are the values that I want to see in myself? And then adjusting the way that you're expressing yourself within the life that you are in now in order to do that, not waiting for external circumstances to change before you believe that you can have fulfillment, because I believe that you can create and find that fulfillment or peace that surpasses understanding in wherever you are, in whatever situation, if you're focused on that just excellent pursuit.
I think there is one thing to add in here that we've talked about that will absolutely allow for true transformation, growth, and process focus, and that's being vulnerable. Because I know a lot of times for me, I'll identify a passion, but I don't necessarily believe that I can do what I need to do with that. Or I'm not as honest with myself about where I could be applying this because I don't see the full picture. I'm not really understanding where this passion fits, instead of just being vulnerable and understanding that this is something that's a part of me that's telling me something really important. And I need to share that. I need to go out into the world and share it and understand that this might be difficult. Some people might disagree. I might have to get into some conflict, but having the courage to push through, make sure that we're entering into that daily process, keeping that passion at the root, is going to create a lot of opportunities to be vulnerable. And that, to me, to both of us, I know is the courageous act, is knowing that the passion is an indicator of extraordinary strength moving forward, that having the courage to trust in it, knowing that it was that full body burn experience, that is going to be the thing that keeps us continually growing and transforming as we achieve more and more of these goals and reach our overall purpose, or help the greater purpose.
That's great. Cool. I think that that's a good way to wrap it up. I would just challenge you guys to, if you haven't already, take the time, take a couple hours, set them aside, reduce all distractions, and start to identify what your values are. Like I said in the past, you can find lists of values. You could print something like that out and start to go through the things that resonate with you, and then do a deep dive. Figure out what it is that makes you, that lights your fire, that takes your time and you don't even realize time is passing. What are the things you come back to? What really gets you going? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What is it about your job that you really enjoy or find that you're able to express yourself fully in? Start to form this written picture of the person that you want to be, so that you can start to live in that space daily wherever you are. And you'll start to find that this purpose is inborn. It's your destiny. Your destiny is something that I think is a combination of the intuitive drive of the spirit within you, hinting at the things that you're created to do, and also a series of the choices that you've made and how you've learned and grown in them to be prepared for the next stage. So start to really look back on things like that, seeing the patterns in your life, seeing the areas that you keep coming back to. And once you have a picture of what passionate pursuit looks like, commit to that daily and just see what happens, and find fulfillment within that, trusting that you are exactly enough where you are, and you have the opportunity daily to keep growing towards that.
So good.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll have the next episode up for you next week.